500 miles in half an afternoon. Speeds to 200 miles an hour. The peculiar thrill of constant danger make this one of the world's most exciting sports. This is the NASCAR Super Speedway, the most punishing test of man and car. Playing this game takes courage, skill, and endurance, and the best equipment you can buy. Sometimes even that isn't enough. That's why these men put a premium on equipment, and why the winners ride with the protection of Wix Filters. It works two ways. Wix gives racing the finest filters ever made, and racing gives Wix the toughest proving ground there is. The Wix reputation for leadership in technology, innovation, and product quality goes on the line here for one reason: to ensure the continued excellence of the entire Wix line. For excellence is the only acceptable measure of quality for a Wix filter. And this is why, in the filter business, Wix filters are the standard of excellence. In Gastonia, North Carolina, 2,000 Wix people work in 3 plants, covering 1 million square feet of space to create the standard of excellence. More than 1,000 different Wix filters help win races and provide cleaner, longer engine life for virtually every type of motorized equipment in the world. Oil, air, fuel, cooling system, hydraulic, and special purpose filters, all precision engineered and built to perform far beyond original equipment specifications. The precision starts here, where Wix engineers spend countless hours finding the answers to filtration problems. The most sophisticated equipment and procedures guide the continuing search. The labs serve Wix customers in other ways, too, with Wix cooling system and oil analysis programs, for instance. Here, customer oil and coolant samples are critically examined to pinpoint causes of engine failure or excessive wear. When research and testing specify the solution to a filtration problem, product design and fabrication become the responsibility of the engineering department. Here, technical knowledge and design skills combine to produce complete specifications and working drawings of the new product. It might be an oil filter. Wix produces 2 basic kinds: replacement cartridges that go inside a filter housing, and SpinOns. The SpinOn oil filter, originally conceived and developed by Wix, completely revolutionized the filter industry. Virtually all new cars use them. SpinOns require a number of sub-assembly parts, the first of which is the outer shell. Stamped from heavy gauge steel, it's first formed into a bowl shape, then moves automatically along a conveyor system to a huge press. A series of powerful strokes produces shells that are structurally uniform throughout. This is the kind of controlled precision that today's engines and the Wix tradition of fine quality demand. Tolerances in this kind of equipment are far more exacting than minimum standards. One more example of the Wix concern for excellence in manufacturing technology. Forming completed, the perfect finished shells move quickly on their way. Meanwhile, lids for the filter's inner cans are being formed on a progressive die machine. And filter center tubes are constructed in an automated sequence. Perforated by a stamping machine, sheets of metal are covered with gauze, which prevents media migration in the finished filter. The covered strips are cut. Then formed into tubes to be delivered to the SpinOn line. The beginning of that line is an automatic can maker. It forms and seams inner cans for the filters. At the next station, the entire surface of these inner can shells is evenly perforated. The ends are flanged to accept the inner lids. A double seamer affixes the lids. And the finished inner cans travel by conveyor to a giant accumulator, where they're stored until called for by a packer. A network of overhead conveyors passes the cans to any of 6 packing stations, where they will be filled with a material called Multicell, another Wix exclusive. SpinOn filters are made with both paper and cotton media, but the filtrant for Wix premium depth type filters is Multicell, an original blend of vegetable fibers and white cotton threads, unique in the industry. Cross-blending is the key to Multicell superiority. It produces a completely uniform media that cannot mat or channel, and makes Multicell unequaled by any other filtrant. Packing of the Multicell is precisely controlled. It's carefully weighed to guarantee uniformly accurate filling. Then compressed into a ribbon, which is spun down to the waiting inner can under exacting pressure. Packed inner cans are removed, trimmed, and sent through a rigid test. Here, each packed filter cartridge is subjected to a pressure drop test. Air is passed through the cartridge, and the pressure drop measured to critical tolerance. Too tight or too loose a pack, and the cartridge is discarded. For the great majority, the next station is a huge futuristic machine that performs automatically the final 7 steps of filter assembly. The machine itself is further testimony to the Wix dedication to quality of product. Made to Wix specifications, it represents a $250,000 investment in a better way to ensure excellence. By employing this kind of modern manufacturing technology, Wix not only improves the product, but does so economically. Final testing is automated too. 10 at a time, the filters are subjected to electronic and pressure tests, eliminating the few with even the minutest flaws. Perfect filters move on to the paint room for cleaning and final decoration. Painting is done by an electrostatic process, which passes 100,000 volts through the filters to ensure a smooth, uniform finish. The filters are oven dried, then receive part numbers and installation instructions in one pass on a silk screen machine. A final check, and the filters move through the automated packaging sequence. Moving down the line, the bright red and gray boxes are the hallmark of the highest quality available in oil filters today. Wix also produces a wide variety of a different type of depth filter called sock filters. These are made of Multicell encased in cotton socks. In the same basic process, Wix makes these in sizes ranging from tiny transmission filters to this 8-pound heavyweight for diesel locomotives. In either case, a ram packer set to specific pressure fills the sock. As many as 7 of these big ones will go into a single housing on a locomotive. Wix is the only major filter maker producing for railroads, and this inverted packer is the only one of its kind in the United States. When the sock mold is filled, the proper amount of filtrant has been added, and the filter moves to inspection and packaging. The other basic type of filter is a replaceable cartridge, and the other primary filtrant is pleated paper. Both are combined in this Wix fuel filter. The filtrant is Wix porosite, which arrives at the Wix plant pre-cut to size for our filters. Porosite is compounded in many different formulas, each the result of years of research. Each lot is subjected to critical testing to confirm the consistent high quality. The combination of Wix engineers and the nation's leading paper manufacturers has made Wix porosite the finest surface filtrant in the industry. On the production line, the porosite is first passed through a steam table to ensure proper moisture content. As it passes through a pleater, it's marked for cutting farther down the line. A pre-curing oven is next for the now pleated porosite. Next, it's separated into filter-size segments and moves on to be trimmed and glued. Here, the side seams are sealed to prevent possible bypass. Note that it's glued, a method far superior to the clasp used by other manufacturers. The steel center tube and the porosite are inserted in the can body. Then end caps are applied. These are filled with plastisol, an adhesive that makes a permanent seal when cured in a rotary heater and sealer. Plastisol is applied to the other end and the filter sent through the final curing oven. Wix porosite is impregnated with phenolic resins while in pulp form, a technique that gives the paper tremendous strength and rigidity when cured. The final step is a careful inspection before the filters are placed in protective poly bags with gaskets and instructions, and move on to packaging. At the new Dixon plant, Wix has set up a complete new air filter factory. Among the products turned out here are the big Donaldson-type air filters. In a process quite similar to what we've just seen, these heavy equipment filters are turned out in a wide variety of sizes and shapes. Here again, Wix porosite is the filtrant. It's a different paper compound, but the standard of excellence is the same. The basic difference in construction is, of course, the wide mesh outer covering. The distinctive Wix red part markings on Donaldson-type filters will show up on heavy equipment in many parts of the world. Still another special purpose air filter is the FAR type, primarily used on construction vehicles and over-the-road equipment. Wix utilizes a complete separate production line for FAR type filters. The filtrant is again a special porosite blend, pleated, cut, and placed in outer paper wrappers. Secured by a mold, they're passed through a curing oven. Then stripped from the mold, and the side seams are heat sealed. Next, the elements are placed in a plastisol-filled mold. FAR-type filters range in size from 2 to 64 of these tubes per filter. The amount of plastisol in the mold is carefully controlled by weight, and after the base is heat cured, the process is repeated for the top. Finished filters are inspected, trimmed, and labeled. Placed in protective poly bags and packaged in cartons for shipping. The most familiar air filter is the dry-type passenger car filter, now in use on virtually all cars. These Wix air filters have a double advantage over competitors. One is the special flame-retardant porosite filtrant, and the other is something called the arch-shaped pleat. Here's how it works. Ordinary filters have a sharp, angled pleat in the paper. It has a tendency to collapse under air pressure, closing off airflow in the outer half-inch of the pleat. But Wix uses the rounded, arch-shaped pleat. Based on an elementary principle of architecture, it has the strength to hold up under much greater pressure. The two sides remain separated, affording as much as 30% more effective area, thus increasing filter life. Again, the first step in construction of the air filter is forming and pleating the porosite. And then curing. The infrared ovens cure only the inner edge of each pleat. Next, the pelting action of vibrators opens the filtrant, giving uniform pleat distribution before final curing. Before these filters are finished, they'll travel an assembly line more than 250 feet long, with all conveyors operated by direct current to afford precise speed control. The first step of assembly closes the seam of the metal outer wrap. The filtrant is placed inside the outer wrap and arranged evenly. An inner screen is set in, and a dry mold placed on one side to cover it during initial curing. Meanwhile, the mold for the other side is filled with gray plastisol, which will form one side of the finished filter. These molds move on to the oven entrance where the filters are set in, and the wet mold assembly moves through another curing stage. At the same time, the mold for the other side is getting an extra touch. It's being silk screened with the name and part number in white plastisol. Then the mold is filled with red plastisol. Note the white lettering in the molds. These molds meet the filter assemblies between ovens. Dry molds come off, filters are set in the second wet mold, and move to final curing. When they emerge, molds are stripped, and the filters head for inspection and packaging. The two colors readily identify top and bottom, eliminating the possibility of installing one upside down. And the permanent name and part number embedded in the plastisol will tell a service operator to replace with the correct Wix filter. A final inspection into familiar red and gray boxes, and the filters head for their last stop in the plant. That stop is here, in the huge plant storage and shipping area, one of 6 great Wix warehousing operations across the country. Warehousing, inventory, and traffic control are vital parts of the expanding Wix system. The standard of excellence is here, too, where complex orders begin quick, efficient journeys to all parts of the nation. This system and the Wix commitment to availability have virtually eliminated back orders. For in the last 2 years, Wix has shipped over 98% of all orders within 24 hours, ensuring that every Wix customer has the right filter where it's needed, when it's needed. Whatever their destination, they'll be there on time. But more importantly, these Wix filters will bring with them the finest quality that intensive research, creative engineering, and precision manufacture can produce. The rare quality of excellence, sought by all, claimed by many, but achieved by few. And those few in the final comparison will be measured by a single name, Wix. For Wix is the standard of excellence.